First Contact's Folly. Ambassador Elena Chen stood at the observation deck of Galactic Assembly Station Lambda, watching the massive ships of the Concordat drift past like metallic islands in space. Each vessel stretched for kilometers, their hulls gleaming with exotic materials that humanity had only dreamed of a decade ago. The Concordat's diplomatic flotilla alone could have housed the population of a small country. Behind her, the doors whispered open. Ambassador Chen, the assembly is ready for Earth's presentation. Elena straightened her uniform and turned to face her aide, Michael Okonjo. Final numbers. Our entire defensive fleet just cleared the jump gate. All 48 ships present and accounted for, arranged in formation as planned. She nodded, squaring her shoulders. This was humanity's moment to prove they deserved more than their current probationary status in the Galactic Assembly. After 5 years of limited technology sharing and restricted trade routes, Earth needed full membership to survive in this vast, complex universe. The assembly chamber was a testament to the galaxy's diversity. 2,000 representatives from over 300 species sat in floating pods arranged in concentric rings. Some were humanoid, others defied description. The chamber itself could have swallowed Earth's largest stadium whole. The assembly recognizes Ambassador Elena Chen of Earth, announced High Speaker Vex Thor, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. You may present your case for full membership. Elena's pod rose to the center of the chamber. Honorable representatives, Earth comes before you today, having met all technological and social benchmarks for full membership. We've established peaceful trade, shared our unique innovations, and developed our fleet to contribute to the common defense. About that fleet, interrupted Ambassador Cole of the Hegemony, their tentacles writhing in what Elena had learned was amusement. I'm looking at it now through the station's sensors. Are those truly your defensive vessels? A hologram materialized in the chamber center, showing Earth's fleet in formation. Elena felt her jaw tighten. She'd expected this reaction. Yes, Ambassador. Those are our Shaw Fujisawa-class destroyers and Martinez-class cruisers. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even the High Speaker's crystalline form sparkled in what might have been mirth. They're barely larger than our civilian shuttles, Cole continued. The largest appears to be, 400 meters in length? My personal yacht is 3 times that size. Elena kept her voice steady. Size isn't everything, Ambassador. Our ships are highly maneuverable, equipped with advanced point defense systems. And how do you expect such tiny vessels to contribute to the defense of civilized space? Demanded Ambassador Zareth of the Primarch Worlds. A single Drachnid pirate cruiser could swallow your entire fleet. More laughter. Elena felt her cheeks burn, but maintained her diplomatic composure. If the assembly would allow a demonstration. The chamber's emergency lights suddenly flashed crimson. High Speaker Vex Thor's form pulsed with urgent patterns. Priority alert from the outer rim. The crystalline confluence has breached the Magellan defense line. 3 systems are under attack. The hologram shifted to show massive crystalline structures, each the size of a small moon, systematically destroying everything in their path. The confluence was a mysterious force that had emerged 6 months ago, immune to traditional weapons and capable of absorbing energy attacks to grow stronger. The Hegemony's 3rd Fleet is responding, Call announced proudly. Our dreadnoughts will. The 3rd Fleet has been shattered, interrupted an emergency broadcast. The confluence adapted to their main weapon systems in minutes. Casualties are total. Silence fell over the chamber. Elena watched the tactical display, her mind racing. The crystalline confluence's ships weren't just huge. They were like space-borne crystals, refracting and redirecting energy weapons. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations had thrown their biggest ships and strongest weapons at the threat, only to watch them fail. But as she studied the movements of the crystalline ships, she saw something that made her smile slightly. They were predictable, geometric, and most importantly, they had blind spots. Earth requests permission to respond to the confluence incursion, Elena announced clearly. The chamber erupted in protests and dismissive remarks. High Speaker Vexthor's form flickered uncertainly. Ambassador Chen, while we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, this is hardly the time for. With all due respect, Elena interrupted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Those crystal formations follow fractal patterns. They're predictable if you know how to look. And their size. It's actually their weakness. She paused, letting her words sink in. Our ships may be small, but they're fast, agile. And we've developed something called swarm tactics that I think might surprise everyone here, including the Confluence. The tactical display showed another hegemony dreadnought falling to the crystal ships. The chamber was silent now, the earlier mockery forgotten in the face of real crisis. High Speaker Vexthor's form pulsed thoughtfully. You have a plan. Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the display. We do. And I promise you this. After today, no one in the galaxy will ever laugh at the size of human ships again. She tapped her comm unit. Fleet Command, this is Ambassador Chen. Execute Operation Diamond Cutter. Show them what humanity's tiny ships can do. As the human fleet jumped toward the crisis point, Elena allowed herself a small smile. Sometimes the best surprises came in small packages, and humanity was about to give the galaxy one hell of a surprise. Part 2. The Silent Storm. Admiral Sarah Harrison watched the tactical display aboard the TSS Cicada, her command ship's bridge eerily quiet despite the chaos unfolding across 3 star systems. At just 380 meters long, the Cicada was considered tiny by galactic standards. But Harrison knew better. She hadn't spent 15 years developing Earth's space combat doctrine for nothing. Multiple confluence formations detected, reported Lieutenant Commander Wong from his sensor station. Classical dodecahedron configurations, just like the ambassador's analysis suggested. Harrison studied the crystalline megastructures that dominated the battlefield. Each one was a geometric nightmare of sharp angles and reflective surfaces, some stretching 20 kilometers from point to point. They moved with an artificial grace, their formations maintaining perfect mathematical spacing as they systematically annihilated everything in their path. Show me the hegemony's attack pattern, Harrison ordered. The display shifted, revealing the massive alien dreadnoughts firing their primary weapons. Lances of pure energy, each powerful enough to crack a planet's crust, struck the crystalline ships. But instead of causing damage, the beams refracted through the geometric structures, emerging stronger and striking back at their sources. They're treating it like a conventional battle, Harrison murmured, trying to overwhelm with raw power. She shook her head. Computer, overlay fractal pattern analysis. The tactical display transformed, highlighting subtle mathematical patterns in the Confluence's movements. Most species saw only chaos in the crystal ship's formations, but human mathematicians had spotted something else. The entire Confluence fleet moved according to strict geometric principles, like a vast crystalline lattice. All ships, this is Admiral Harrison. Activate stealth systems and prepare for synchronized micro-jumps. Remember your training. We're not here to outgun them. We're here to outthink them. The human fleet disappeared from conventional sensors, their advanced metamaterials and heat sink systems rendering them nearly invisible. It was technology born from centuries of human submarine warfare, adapted for space. The massive alien ships of the assembly had never bothered with stealth. Why hide when you could simply overwhelm? Ma'am, Wong called out, incoming transmission from the Hegemony flagship. They're demanding we withdraw. They say our toys will only get in their way. Harrison allowed herself a small, grim smile. No response needed, Lieutenant. They'll understand soon enough. The Cicada's bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, each operator monitoring their section of the swarm network that linked all human ships together. Unlike the rigid command structures of other species, human ships operated with extraordinary autonomy while maintaining perfect coordination. Another lesson learned from Earth's natural world. Confluence ships are maintaining standard geometric progression, announced the tactical officer. Their blind spots are exactly where we predicted. Harrison nodded. Execute Operation Silent Storm. All ships begin attack pattern Epsilon. The human fleet split into 12 perfect squadrons, each targeting a specific geometric weak point in the confluence formation. Their movements were precise, choreographed, yet fluid, like schools of fish darting through coral reefs. First attack run in 3, 2, 1. The TSS Hummingbird, smallest of the human ships at just 200 meters, darted through a geometric gap in the confluence formation that larger ships could never have exploited. Its specialized weapons, designed not to destroy but to disrupt, fired with surgical precision at key structural nodes in the crystal ships. The effect was subtle at first, small fractures, tiny imperfections in the geometric patterns, but Harrison knew what would come next. After all, that's how you shattered a crystal, not with brute force, but with precise strikes at structural weaknesses. Second wave. Commence attack runs, Harrison ordered. Remember, timing is everything. More human ships slipped through the confluence's defenses, each strike carefully calculated to compound the damage of the others. The crystal ships began to show signs of distress, their perfect formations wavering as structural instabilities cascaded through their lattice. Incoming message from the Hegemony flagship, Wong reported, a note of satisfaction in his voice. They're asking how we're doing it. No response. Harrison replied, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Let our actions speak for us. The battle continued to unfold like a deadly dance. Human ships weaved through gaps that the assembly's massive vessels could never have utilized, striking with precision rather than power. The confluence's attempts to retaliate proved futile. Their weapons were designed to handle massive energy attacks, not the precise, surgical strikes of the human fleet. "Ma'am," called out the tactical officer, detecting critical lattice instabilities in 3 primary confluence structures. The fracture patterns are spreading faster than they can adapt. Harrison allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had spent centuries learning hard lessons about warfare, that bigger wasn't always better, that adaptation trumped raw power, and that understanding your enemy was more important than overwhelming them. All ships, prepare for final attack phase, she ordered. Let's show the galaxy why size isn't everything. As her fleet moved into position for the killing blow, Harrison thought about all those dismissive looks in the assembly, all the mockery about humanity's tiny ships. After today, those same beings would learn a vital lesson. It's not the size of the ship in the fight, but the intelligence of the fight in the ship. The real storm was about to begin, and it would be anything but silent. Operation Firefly. The battlefield sparkled with crystalline debris as Admiral Harrison initiated the final phase of humanity's assault. The confluence's perfect geometric formations had begun to decay, their once immaculate patterns now showing signs of strain under the precise attacks of Earth's fleet. Multiple distress calls from hegemony vessels, reported Lieutenant Commander Wong. Their remaining dreadnoughts are trapped between 3 confluence formations. They're requesting immediate assistance. Harrison studied the tactical display. The massive alien ships, each one dwarfing her entire fleet, were caught in a deadly crossfire. The confluence had adapted to their traditional attack patterns, using their crystalline structures to redirect the dreadnought's own energy weapons back at them. Show me reactor status across the fleet, Harrison ordered. Green indicators filled her display. All 48 human ships still operating at peak efficiency. Their small size and advanced heat management systems allowed them to maintain full combat operations long after larger vessels would have needed to vent excess energy. All ships, commence Operation Firefly, Harrison announced. Squadrons 1 through 4, execute Maneuver Delta 6. Squadrons 5 through 8, prepare for micro-jump sequence on my mark. The human fleet moved like a swarm of luminescent insects, each ship leaving trails of deliberately vented plasma in precise patterns. To the untrained eye, It looked like battle damage. But Harrison knew better. "Ma'am," called out her tactical officer, "the confluence is responding exactly as predicted. They're adjusting their formation to account for our apparent weakness." Harrison nodded. "They see patterns in everything. They can't help themselves. And that's exactly what we're counting on." The apparent chaos of the human fleet's movements was anything but random. Each plasma trail, each seemingly erratic course correction, was part of a larger mathematical formula, one designed to trigger the confluence's instinctive need for geometric perfection. "Hegemony flagship is demanding to know our strategy," Wong reported. "They're saying we're just making the situation worse." "Send them this response," Harrison said. "Watch the fireflies dance." The human ships continued their intricate maneuvers, their plasma trails creating complex, interconnected patterns in space. The confluence ships, driven by their fundamental programming, began shifting their formations to mirror and counter these patterns. "They're taking the bait," announced the tactical officer. "Confluence formations are adjusting to incorporate our plasma patterns into their geometric calculations." Harrison allowed herself a tight smile. Now they're thinking in 3 dimensions. Time to show them how to think in 4. "All ships, execute time-phased attack pattern Omega." The human fleet's movements suddenly shifted. What had appeared to be random plasma venting revealed itself as a carefully choreographed series of position markers. As the confluence adjusted their formations to account for these patterns, they inadvertently moved into precisely calculated positions. "Temporal synchronization complete," reported the weapons officer. "All ships showing ready for coordinated strike." This was the moment Harrison had trained her fleet for. Unlike the brute force approaches of the assembly's massive ships, humanity had developed weapons based on timing rather than power. Each ship carried a relatively small payload, but when delivered simultaneously at precisely calculated points, "All ships, fire on my mark," Harrison ordered. 3, 2, 1. Execute. 48 human vessels fired as one. Their weapons were not the massive energy beams favored by the assembly, but instead focused gravitational pulses, each one carefully calibrated to resonate with the crystalline structure of their targets. Alone, each shot was insignificant, but combined, striking at exactly the right points at exactly the right moment. The effect was devastating. The confluence ships, their formations already compromised by the earlier precision strikes, began to vibrate at their resonant frequencies. Fractures appeared and spread with geometric precision, following the very mathematical patterns that gave the crystal ships their strength. "By the eternal void," breathed Wong, reading the incoming data, "the gravitational resonance is cascading through their entire formation. Their own geometric nature is amplifying the effect." Harrison watched as the massive crystal ships began to break apart, their destruction following the same beautiful mathematical principles that had guided their creation. It was like watching a symphony of destruction, each shipboard computer calculating and adjusting their weapons' frequencies in real time to maintain the resonance effect. "Incoming priority transmission from the Hegemony flagship," Wong announced, his voice tight with suppressed excitement. They're requesting our tactical data. They want to know how we did it." Harrison kept her eyes on the tactical display, watching as humanity's tiny ships systematically dismantled vessels hundreds of times their size. "Tell them the answer was there all along. Sometimes the smallest vibration, applied at exactly the right point in time, can shatter the largest crystal." As the last confluence ship in their sector broke apart, Harrison thought about the assembly's dismissal of human innovation. They had looked at Earth's fleet and seen only size. They had failed to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in building bigger ships, but in finding smarter ways to fight. "Orders, Admiral," asked her tactical officer. Harrison straightened in her command chair. "Prepare for Phase 2. We've shown them what humanity's ships can do. Now let's show them what humanity's tactics can accomplish." The battle was far from over, but the galaxy's perception of humanity's tiny fleet had been permanently altered. Size, as Earth had long known, was far less important than how you used what you had. Dance of the Swarm. The news of humanity's success spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. In the command center aboard Galactic Assembly Station Lambda, Ambassador Elena Chen stood beside High Speaker Vex Thor, watching tactical displays from a dozen battle zones. "Impossible," muttered Ambassador Cole, their tentacles writhing in agitation. 3 more confluence clusters, shattered by those tiny ships. Elena finished, allowing herself a small smile. "The same ones you laughed at earlier." The holographic displays showed human fleets engaging confluence forces across multiple sectors. Each battle followed the same pattern: precision, coordination, and timing triumphing over sheer size and power. Admiral Harrison reports Operation Firefly has achieved full deployment across all sectors, announced Michael Okonjo, Elena's aide. "The confluence is attempting to adapt, but they can't," Elena completed. "Because we're not just fighting with ships. We're fighting with mathematics, psychology, and something the confluence could never understand: improvisation." The assembled representatives watched in stunned silence as humanity's battle doctrine unfolded across space. Where once stood single massive fleets, now moved coordinated groups of smaller vessels, each operating with near-perfect synchronization. Your ships, High Speaker Vex Thor's crystalline form pulsed with curious patterns. "They move like a murmuration of starlings," Elena supplied. "Like schools of fish, like swarms of insects. We didn't just build ships, Speaker. We studied every example of coordinated movement in nature and encoded it into our battle algorithms." The tactical displays showed human vessels executing maneuvers that seemed to defy conventional space combat logic. Ships wove through debris fields that larger vessels had to avoid, used gravitational slingshots that required split-second timing, and coordinated their attacks with millisecond precision. "Confluence forces in the Orion sector are attempting to establish a new formation," reported a tactical officer. "They're trying to create a hyperdimensional lattice structure." Elena nodded. "Just as we predicted. Admiral, initiate protocol quantum dance." On the main display, the human ships began a new pattern of movement. Instead of attacking directly, they created complex, 4-dimensional patterns with their trajectories. The confluence, programmed to seek mathematical perfection, couldn't resist attempting to counter these patterns. "Look at how they move," breathed Ambassador Zarith. "It's like a dance," Elena said softly. "A dance where every step is calculated, every movement has purpose, but the overall pattern remains unpredictable. We learned long ago that the most beautiful dances combine strict structure with creative freedom." The human ships moved in ever more complex patterns, leading the confluence ships in an intricate spatial ballet. But unlike a traditional dance, this one had a deadly purpose. With each movement, the crystal ships were being drawn into positions that would make them vulnerable to the resonance weapons. "Multiple confluence formations are showing signs of structural instability," announced the tactical officer. "Their attempts to maintain geometric harmony with our fleet patterns are creating internal stresses." Elena watched as the massive crystal ships tried to adapt to humanity's tactics, but they couldn't. Their very nature, their need for perfect geometric patterns, had become their greatest weakness. "Your vessels," High Speaker Vex Thor observed, "they coordinate but do not control. Each ship moves independently yet in perfect harmony with the others." "How?" "We call it emergent behavior," Elena explained. "Like how no single bird in a flock knows the overall pattern, yet together they create something beautiful and complex. Each of our ships has autonomy within the greater strategy. It's not about rigid control. It's about coordination, adaptation, and trust." The displays showed human ships executing their most complex maneuvers yet. Small squadrons split and reformed, created false patterns to draw confluence ships out of position, then struck with precise, coordinated attacks that shattered the crystal vessels along their structural fault lines. "Confluence forces are attempting to retreat from the Orion sector," reported the tactical officer. There, they're breaking formation. A murmur of astonishment ran through the assembly chamber. The confluents, known for their relentless geometric precision, were falling into disarray. Their perfect patterns had become their perfect prison, and humanity's tiny ships were their jailers. "We never needed bigger ships," Alina said, addressing the chamber. "We needed smarter tactics." The galaxy looked at our fleet and saw only size. We looked at the universe and saw patterns, possibilities, and the power of working together. As the battle continued to unfold across multiple sectors, the representatives of the Galactic Assembly watched in silence. They were witnessing more than just a military victory. They were seeing the triumph of innovation over tradition, of adaptation over raw power. "The dance continues," Alina murmured, watching the displays. "And the galaxy is learning a new rhythm. Respect among stars." 3 weeks after the confluence's retreat, the Galactic Assembly chamber hummed with a different energy. Gone were the dismissive glances and condescending whispers. In their place was something new: respect. Admiral Sarah Harrison stood beside Ambassador Elena Chen as High Speaker Vex Thor called the session to order. The crystalline being's form shimmered with formal patterns, ones that Elena had learned indicated profound respect. "We are gathered today," Vex Thor announced, their voice resonating through the chamber, "to address the application for full membership of species designation, human." Through the chamber's vast windows, Alina could see the human fleet in formation. Their ships might look small against the backdrop of the massive station, but no one was laughing anymore. The TSS Cicada, Harrison's flagship, led the formation in a precise geometric pattern, a subtle reminder of how humanity had turned mathematics itself into a weapon. 3 standard cycles ago, Vex Thor continued, this chamber witnessed humanity's offer of assistance met with skepticism. The crystalline being's form flickered in what Elena now recognized as embarrassment. Today, we witnessed something else. The presentation of the Concordat's highest military honor to Admiral Sarah Harrison and the human fleet. Ambassador Cole, who had once mocked the size of Earth's ships, floated forward. Their tentacles now moved in patterns of deference. The hegemony formally withdraws its previous objections to Earth's membership application. Moreover, we request. The massive being seemed to struggle with the words. We request access to human tactical databases and training protocols. Harrison stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. Earth would be honored to share our knowledge. But first, there's something the Assembly needs to understand. Our victory wasn't about technology or even tactics alone. It was about perspective. She gestured to the tactical display, which showed recordings from the battles. We succeeded because we never tried to match the galaxy's definition of power. We looked at our own history, our own world, and found strength in unexpected places. A bee can't overpower a bear, but a swarm can make it flee. A single ant can't lift a leaf, but a colony can build cities. Elena watched the assembly members as they studied the battle footage with new eyes. Where once they had seen only small ships moving chaotically, now they recognized the complex patterns, the intricate dance of coordination that had brought down the mighty confluence. The confluence was not defeated by our weapons, Harrison continued. They were defeated by their own inability to comprehend chaos within order, creativity within structure. They saw the universe as a perfect geometric pattern. We saw it as a dance waiting to happen. High Speaker Vex Thor's form pulsed with agreement. Perhaps this is why the Ancient Ones chose to grant your species access to the stars. You see things differently. We had to, Elena added. Earth taught us that survival doesn't always mean being the biggest or strongest. Sometimes it means being the most adaptable, the most creative, the most willing to work together. The chamber's holographic display activated, showing Earth's fleet alongside the massive ships of other species. But now, the size difference didn't seem like a disadvantage. It looked like specialization, adaptation, evolution. The Assembly formally recognizes, Vex Thor announced, that humanity has not only met but exceeded all requirements for full membership. Furthermore, we propose the establishment of a new joint defense initiative, with human tactical advisors taking key leadership roles. Ambassador Cole's tentacles writhed in agreement. The galaxy focused on building bigger ships, more powerful weapons. Humanity showed us that true strength lies in coordination, adaptation, and understanding. Elena stepped forward. Earth accepts these honors with gratitude. But more importantly, we look forward to working together, combining the best of all our species. After all, the galaxy is vast, and none of us knows what other challenges await. As if to emphasize her point, the human fleet outside began a new formation. Not their combat patterns, but something else. Something beautiful. 48 ships moving in perfect harmony, creating geometric patterns that shifted and flowed like a dance among the stars. We came to the stars carrying lessons learned from Earth's oceans, forests, and skies. Harrison said, "We learned that life finds a way, that adaptation trumps raw power, and that together, even the smallest beings can achieve the impossible." High Speaker Vexthor's form created a pattern that Elena had never seen before, one of profound understanding. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson humanity has taught us, that true strength lies not in the size of our ships, but in the power of our ideas and the strength of our unity. As the assembly chamber erupted in approval, Elena looked out at the dancing fleet and smiled. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not by becoming like the other species, but by remaining true to its own nature, adaptable, innovative, and always ready to prove that the smallest dog in the fight could still change the galaxy. The stars sparkled outside, countless points of light in the vast darkness, and somewhere out there, new challenges waited. But now, humanity wouldn't face them alone. They had shown the galaxy a new way to fight, a new way to think, and most importantly, a new way to dance among the stars. After all, in space as on Earth, it was never about how big you were, it was about how brightly you dared to shine.